Welcome back to the Emotionally Intelligent Parenting Podcast. You guys know who I am. I'm Stephanie Pinto, the host. I'm a mum of two and a wife to one. I am also a best-selling author, an international speaker, and an award-winning coach. That sounds like a lot. It is a lot. And if I'm honest, I work really hard, but I absolutely love what I do. And my husband has to tell me sometimes, like, close the laptop, put your phone down. And I'm like, but I just need to do a bit more. Anyway, as you can tell, I love all things emotional intelligence, emotionally intelligent parenting, emotionally intelligent relationships. I don't know, all of it. So you're going to, I think, get an earful today of me talking about the stuff I love, which in particular, this episode is about triggers. I think as parents, feeling triggered and really frustrated or angry or even resentful with our kids is so normal. It is so human. I'm not here to demonize anyone because I am putting myself in this boat too. And so that's why I wanted to talk to you guys today about triggers and give you a little bit of insights into where do they come from? Why do we have them? Can we do anything about them? Or are we just stuck with them? Stuck with that feeling of our blood boiling when our kids are not listening, our volcano exploding when we have told them to do something and they haven't done it 3 times, or not to do something and they keep doing it. You guys know what I'm talking about. So that's today's episode. I think it's going to be a really great one, and I hope you take a lot away from it. But before we begin, I do want to acknowledge the Darug Nation, who are the traditional custodians of the land on which I live, work, and record this podcast. I pay my respects to all First Nations people, elders, and ancestors, and I acknowledge that sovereignty was never ceded, and I stand in solidarity towards a shared future. Okay, so if you are watching, I know most of you are going to be listening to this on the podcast. Some of you may be watching because I put these up on YouTube just after, usually a little bit of time after the podcast episode airs. If you could see me now, so my daughter and I plaited our hair before bed one night, and I made the mistake of doing too many tiny plaits, and so now I look like a lion because we've taken it all out and it's like kaboom. So if you are curious as to what that looks like, please jump onto my YouTube channel. So I just can't stop. I just look really weird. So I'm going to not look at the screen and I'm just going to talk as though you're only listening, not watching. Okay, so let's jump into talking about our triggers. I actually have, if you're listening to this as it drops, like the week that it comes out, which is March, it's going to be towards the end of March 2024, then I actually have a live masterclass I'm running a few days after this online. But if you are coming back to this episode, in a few weeks or a few months or whatever, then you will find on my website at least 1, if not 2, and probably some more classes on this stuff. I know I already have one around triggers, and the Taming Your Triggers one is going to go up soon as well. So let me start off with a story that I have not told because it's kind of, I want to say, at the least embarrassing. At the most, it's like there's a bit of shame in there. So I haven't really told this, and I will do my best to explain it. I'm going to kind of nutshell it so that you get the idea, but obviously not go into the depths. Like, it's a personal story. It was probably a couple of years ago, and we were home with the kids, and for probably a number of reasons, my cup was empty, if that makes sense. So I think I was just working a lot. I was tired. I don't know, several things under my iceberg. And my youngest kept jumping on me on the couch. So we were just in the lounge room. She was in one of those silly moods as kids get. And usually I can handle those, right? I can lay a boundary or I can get in there and play. But this time I couldn't. And so I feel like she jumped on me maybe 3 or 4 times before I absolutely lost it. And I'm not proud of that. You guys know I say I'm not perfect, but especially in that moment, I was not perfect. And my son I'm pretty sure he was standing just in front of us, kind of between the couch and the TV. We have a small coffee table. We did, I think it's the same one still now. And she kept jumping on me and I lost it. And I think I said something simple as get off me. Something like that. But what I did with my body was I pushed her. I like launched her off me, and she fell/stumbled backwards onto the rug between like the coffee table and the couch, and she got hurt. And like immediately when you feel like absolute shit, like I can remember it, like I can feel it now in my chest. I just felt that guilt, that immediate guilt. She started crying. I think my son looked shocked. I actually don't remember what I immediately did, if I helped her or not, but I remember that afternoon, very quick after, I don't know if I helped her or if I went straight into my bedroom and I like shut life out for the rest of the afternoon. I just felt that was one of my big, dear God, like, you just want to, when you want the ground to open up and swallow you. It was one of those moments because I knew I should have done better. I knew I could have done better. I knew that I had hurt her. She was crying and she was shocked, Anyway, so I'm hoping that, I know that in some capacity you all will have experienced something like that, where you just feel, really, 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 really awful and really guilty. And so what I want to share, I guess what I want you guys to kind of connect with in terms of that story is the more depleted you are, the more likely you are to have those triggering moments where you say or do things that you normally would never imagine doing or saying. For some parents, it's physically lashing out, like smacking or spanking. For others, it's verbally. It doesn't matter what it is. The more depleted, like the less you have in your cup, the more tired you are, the less help you have, the more that's on your shoulders. We have to recognize that that's where we're at. And that I don't want to blame parents because, like, as I said, I'm in this bucket too. But I think it's our responsibility to ensure that we are filled to enough of a capacity so that we don't dip down kind of below the line into those moments where we just have nothing left and we're like, get off me, or I said no, and then we erupt. So in those moments when we are depleted, and when I forgot, it didn't even register that she was a child of, maybe she was, 4 at the time, I can't remember. I forgot that her brain was under construction. I forgot that she was supposed to be silly, playful, not listening, not attuning to me and how frustrated I was getting. She was supposed to be doing all those things because that's where her brain was at the time. I forgot that stuff. I didn't even think of it. I was caught in my own head and my own whatever was going on for me, right? So when that happens, we take things more personally. I don't know if you've ever had those moments where you've just made dinner, it's taken you however long, and then you put it down on the table and your kids will say something like, I don't want that chicken and rice, like they say something like, I don't want that, or whatever they say or do. And immediately we take it personally and we get fired up. It triggers us. It's like a button. We take things more personally when we're like that. We also make snap judgments when we're like that. So I remember a time, when was it? Don't know. And I think my husband probably said something like, we've got no milk left, or there's no milk left. Like something innocuous, something really, probably objective in his mind. Oh, there's no milk left. And I took that personally. I remember thinking, what are you trying to say? Like, you know what? I've been at work all day and I've had the kids. Maybe you could get some milk. Like he was just noticing that there was no milk left. We'd run out. Or maybe that he'd had the last bit. I don't know. So we make some snap judgments. We take things personally. There's more that there's more sort of, I want to say, habits or errors in perception that will happen. And we become adversarial. So instead of working with the people around us who we usually love and care for and are empathetic with, we become adversaries, like rather than teammates. We become against each other, or I'm against you, or you seem like you're against me. So that empathy loses out, the patience and the tolerance, that goes. So what is really, really powerful when we start to be, I guess, intentional about overcoming and better managing our triggers, number one, we have to dial up our emotional intelligence. I say that a lot because it is something that we can, if we place our focused attention on, then we are starting to kind of pull at the threads, or like, pull out the roots. We're starting to really be intentional. We're making it a priority, and we're thinking, you know what? I really don't want to be like this anymore. I want to find another way. I don't want to get to this space that I'm at by 9 a.m. every morning. It's exhausting. I don't like it. My kids don't like it. So we have to come to a space, and this can come in different ways and at different times, where we start to be intentional and make this a priority, kind of make it a goal. I'm focusing on this for a week or for a month or whatever it is. So as I mentioned before, I run classes on this. I've got some on my website. I'll put them in the show notes, stephaniepinto.com/courses. You'll find, at the moment, I think I've got about 5 or 6 on there. And I am running periodically, every now and then, I will run classes. And as I said, later this week, at the end of March, I am running one on triggers. So I remember something that I ran through, and I usually run through parents with when I'm coaching them, and we touch on triggers and we talk about this. I remember running through this exercise with a mum, and she obviously wanted to work on being a little more calm, a little less kind of quick to anger, and wanted to connect more with her kids rather than getting frustrated with them all the time. And so I asked her to list down with me, because sometimes it takes a bit of help, all the things that frustrate her or build resentment or make her really angry with her kids. I was like, list down your triggers. And we did that. It didn't take too long. And I remember she listed about 25 things, which sounds like a lot. But, we were pulling out all the big and little things. When we, not summarized, when we kind of laser focused in on the top big things, that if we kind of started to work on those and place our intention on them, then some of the others would have fallen, a bit like a house of cards. She came up with just 3 things, right? 3 really big ones that happened quite commonly or frequently, or they were ones where she felt she had the biggest reaction. So this is an exercise that you could do. This might be something that we go through in the masterclass later this week. I'll put the link for the masterclass, by the way, in the show notes. So if you're listening to this going, oh, I want to be in that, I'm pretty sure we've listed it. It's really, really low cost. I want to do these things at an investment that, and I call it an investment because it really is investing in yourself and your family. I think it's like $30 US. So nothing gigantic by any sense. So we need to know our triggers. That's what that list is doing. We also need to have a bit of an understanding, and this comes in discussion with the coach, with someone who knows, someone who's sort of trained in it. Are these triggers tending to be sensory? Are they tending to be more behavioral? Are they tending to be more emotional based? And so in this episode, I don't have time. I'm not going to go deep into each of those. But if you think of sensory in terms of sensory integration or sensory processing, we all have different profiles, if you will, of how we perceive sensory information from the environment around us or from within our own body. And we get taught there are 5 senses. There are actually 8 and potentially more, but we know there are 8 at the moment. And so understanding what triggers us from a sensory point of view is really, really important. Do not get taught this stuff at school, so frustratingly. This is why I love OTs. I've had some OTs on the podcast. I think one's coming up, and I had the OT parent coaches a little while ago. They were amazing. So behavioral triggers, what behaviors, what things do your kids or the people around you have to do in order to press that button and make you erupt? By the way, I know one of my sensory ones is when things are too loud. So when the TV is on too loud, the kids are either playing or arguing loudly, and I don't know, my phone is beeping or something. I don't know. When there's too much noise, that can really grate on me. That can be a trigger. So sensory, behavioral, and then emotional. So how we are feeling, and I'm just like, this is not an exhaustive list, but how we are feeling emotionally. Okay, we had a child-related interruption. Back on track. So we talked about sensory, behavioral, emotional triggers, just surface level. The last couple of things I want to leave you with is that when we understand just enough about the neuroscience of triggers, of the things that make us explode or frustrated, irritated. So when we understand the neuroscience of that, which means, from my point of view, that's what does it mean to be emotionally hijacked, right? Hijacked by our emotions. What is happening in our brain and our nervous system? We often talk about the amygdala. That's sort of our smoke alarm or our fire alarm that makes us, it kind of catapults us into this full body physiological reaction, which includes cortisol and adrenaline, and what those neurochemicals are doing in our body. We don't think that you need to know the depths of the neuroscience and sift through the research articles. No, but we have to know just a certain amount, which I do in coaching all the time. And we're going to go through in the Triggers Masterclass. Like, this is stuff that, once you have just enough of an understanding to realize, oh my God, that's what's going on. No wonder I lose it. No wonder my kids have to do X, Y, Z 2-3 times and then I blow. Like, all of this stuff starts to make a lot more sense. We have a lot more understanding and knowledge, which I think just puts us in such a better position to really start to have a handle on those moments, because then we can see them coming and we can anticipate them and we can know what the patterns are and we can sense it in our body, which usually we can't. We assume it feels like we go from 0 to 100, which, by the way, is complete BS. We don't. But yeah, we're not taught this stuff, right? So I love that some preschools and schools are talking about emotions and emotional intelligence and resilience and things like that. But I would love to create, this is so unrelated, like a curriculum or something around social and emotional intelligence. Anyway, one day. So yeah, you are in an extraordinarily better position to start handling your big emotions or those uncomfortable emotions, so that you are not flipping your lid and lashing out anywhere near as much as previously. And this works for parents I coach who are committed and put the time in, and who, like I said, are intentional and they've got that kind of goal. It's worked for me and my husband, both of us. I think you guys have maybe heard in some previous episodes, I'm English, he's Portuguese. We are very different in our temperaments and personality and the ways in which we communicate and everything. And yet with emotional intelligence, it's almost like, what would you call it? Like the kind of the rope, the string, the knot that's kind of connected us when we are so different. Obviously there's lots of things, but both of us now, very rarely will we completely erupt and lose our SHIT and completely flip our lid. Like, it's very, very rare. I would say for me, I don't know, it's like once every few weeks. And I get frustrated, don't get me wrong, but I do not yell, shout, swear, smack my kids, like that stuff, right? So I want to say I have a much better handle on those emotions, and what I can do and what I cannot do, what I don't need to do. So the last thing I want to leave you guys with is circuit breakers. Circuit breakers are things that you can do or say to basically circuit break the rising, the volcano building, the 50%, like they're not listening, or they keep doing that thing, or they won't do what you've asked. You need to be able to circuit break that. That is on you, right? I remember at a conference I was recently at, I said, our triggers, our emotions, our reactions, that is on us, not our kid. So our kid could have drawn all over the walls when the very day before we told them, do not do this. This does not come off. Like, you are not allowed to draw you can draw on paper, not the walls. Even then, when they have done that thing a second time, or they've done Maybe you've asked them 3-4 times to get in the shower or to start their homework or whatever, and they're not doing it. How you react or respond, the words you use, your body language, your emotions, whatever you project out, that is on you, not your kid. So it's a little bit of taking accountability. It's a little bit of taking responsibility and saying, okay, this is where I'm at. This is something I want to work on, and I'm gonna learn how. There's so much free stuff on the internet. This podcast is free. You can just Google how do I manage my triggers. You're gonna find great content. However, I do always say, if you have someone to support you and build that ongoing momentum, so that they are kind of hand-holding, they're keeping you accountable, they're checking in on you, that stuff is really, really powerful. That's where the transformation happens. So if you want information about that Taming Your Triggers Masterclass, I'm going to put it down below in the show notes. You guys can find that. You can reach out to me or my team at hello@stephaniepinto.com. You'll find, just ask us, hey, I want to manage my triggers, or I'm yelling too much, or, send me the link in the info. As I said, it's coming up later this week. And if you're watching this on YouTube or listening to this episode not in March 2024, then please jump back. You'll be able to probably find it on my website, or you can just contact my team and we will get you the info. I hope that was really helpful. We kind of ran through a bunch of stuff about triggers and about anger and emotions. There's way more. I could probably do a whole day workshop on triggers, but I won't. Unless you want it, then I totally will. So I hope that was interesting and insightful. I'm going to leave it there. I hope you guys have a great rest of your week or weekend, and I will see you on the next episode.